welcome again at this special webinar, What is the Impact from Working at Home on Our Brain? For the ones who just joined, just a few housekeeping rules first. Your sound and video are automatically turned off in this team session. The interaction and questions can be put through the chat function in Teams. With me here today are Marijn and Aniek, which are also producing this event. And also, of course, later will be introduced our friend, Dr. Erik Matser. Presentation handouts and recordings will be emailed after. The webinar duration is approximately 60 minutes. As I said, today, we as BakkerElkhuizen are really thrilled and excited to have with us here today Dr. Erik Matser. My name is Tom van Maris. I will be your host at today's webinar. I have a background in industrial design and I've been working for 17 years already at this company and building the international brand and also the company to where it is now, and currently in the role as sales director. For those who are new to us today, a short introduction to BakkerElkhuizen. Already for 25 years, we are a leading company when it comes down to the digital worker, work smart, and help them to work smart and feel good. We are a Dutch firm and we are proud that we have an international network of partners. We use research and Dutch design to develop high-end solutions. And we're also proud to mention that a big major part of our portfolio is manufactured in the Netherlands. At the bottom of the slide, you see some of our innovations in our portfolio. From the left to the right, the RQ260 laptop stand, the Ultraboard 950 keyboard, the monitor arm, the flex desk, and also work and move software solution to stimulate mental fitness. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, we have been working really hard together with our partners to provide them solutions to give them really health and safety solutions for their clients. I want to share some of the examples which we have been supporting the last couple of months. For instance, when companies started to reopen their offices with a small number of people, we introduced the Bee safety screens. It's an extraordinary innovation because it's a really sustainable solution, which also can be used after COVID-19. Of course, it's highly absorbent and does not attract dirt, it's not easy flammable, and is of course protecting against the virus COVID-19. But above all, in open office plans, it improves concentration and privacy. And because of the fact we are using PET felt, which is made of 100% plastic bottles from the ocean, it's good absorption with these panels. So it's really a sustainable solution also for in the future. So that's what we did for offices and reopening offices. When we look at the home workers, homeworks is a part of BakkerElkhuizen for many years. We have been building a good portfolio on ergonomics. So like a whole range of notebook stands and also a wide range of keyboards and also mice to really encourage people to have a really healthy work posture. When we look at the mental fitness side, we also see people moving forward with re-energizing themselves. And with the work and move software, we enable them to get breaks we call pit stops. And in these pit stops, people really re-energize and make sure their health and well-being are at a high level. Speaking of mental fitness, over the past 25 years, research on both physical and mental human behavior is a fundament when it comes down to development of our products. When we look at mental performance, there is a strong link between us and neuropsychology. That's why we are happy to have with us here today, Dr. Erik Matser. He will take us through the effects on homework on our brain. Again, welcome, Erik. Please join our session.
Hello, Tom.
Hi. We are at 1.5 meters, Erik. The Dutch regulations are set.
We are into the Dutch law system. So.
Hey, great to have you with us here today, Erik. We have been working with as two companies for quite a long time, especially also on the let's say employees which we are taking into our company. When we have let's say candidates, you test them with your neuropsychological test. Can you give us a little bit insight to how you do that?
I think that neuropsychological assessment is necessary for success. Every plant has its own identity, and that identity is delivered by speed, by quality, by what you want, language or mathematical procedures. And you have to look for the right person who fits in the system.
Yeah.
And what we do is that we look at the individual as an individual process and not one size fits all. And when you find the right fit, that's also the perfect match for I think for your company.
Yeah.
And we learned how to make success with people.
Yeah.
And that's also what we do in elite sports, to create teams.
Yeah. Yeah, talk about sports. You developed a unique expertise during your career. One of the things I've heard from you is, of course, the fact that you have been working with Jose Mourinho during this period at Chelsea Football Club as a mental doctor to really get the mental fitness of the team players at a higher level. Can you tell us a little bit more what you did?
What the question was is it possible to make the jump to the elite level, that is winning Premier League, winning Champions League? Can you do it in 1 year?
Wow.
And a team was selected by people who had knowledge about talent in football, but also they looked over the fence, and they hired people from rugby and from British athletics, from gold medal winners. So it was actually a melting pot of knowledge how to get to the top.
Okay.
And it was incredible when I look back now that we made it in 1 year. That we started and Chelsea was champion of the Premier League in 1 year. That was really incredible.
Yeah.
That it was possible.
Yeah.
So to create teams which are very successful in a short period is possible, but you have to understand that playing European League, and when you want to win the Champions League, you have to change the whole team.
Yeah.
And so that's also for plans and where people work together in setting goals. And that setting goals, that means that you have to make many implications.
Yeah. Okay, great. Also on the fact that you told me about your new book you're working on, Perfect Blue.
Perfect Blue is actually when I worked on this, it started with meeting someone who asked me some questions, and now I'm in the job for 30 years in neuroanatomy and neurosciences. And when I started to write about human behavior and about the COVID crisis, it all came together, and then it became actually one long story. And what Perfect Blue actually means is the new balance what we have to find after COVID. When I spoke with my father, he's 89 years old, and he said after World War II, when Arnhem was liberated, the second time they become liberated, actually, first time was the Battle of Arnhem. So those people came out of a turbulent period in human history, and they thought we will start to live like we did before the war. Which was not, because we all know when we look back now, the 60s, there was a big change in human behavior. This is a line in COVID, is a line in human history, which will change everything. It will change the way we look at work. It will change the way we look, for example, at education, learning, working. For example, for myself, is when getting my points for being a doctor. I will not go to San Diego for a meeting, but I will do this webinar, and I do it from my office, and you really start to select, well, what is good for me or what's not good for me.
So you're looking for a new balance.
It will be a new balance.
It will be a new balance.
The old will not get back. And we have to change. And people who are the best in changing will become the new winners. Like we changed Chelsea Football Club. But then you have to change the whole team and the whole mentality. And that's what we will talk about this afternoon.
Great, great.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's also a nice link to the next slide. If you go back to the presentation, please. Yes. First we had this introduction, and now we want to start with a poll. And the poll is: how many days are you working from home? Is it A, 1 to 2 days a week? Is it B, 3 to 4 days a week? Or C, 5 days a week? Please use the chat function to say A, 1 to 2 days a week, B, 3 to 4 days a week, or C, 5 days a week. Okay, after the presentation, we'll come back to with the results. And now, after this introduction, I want to give the word to Dr. Erik Matser. Erik, please join and have a great presentation.
Okay. Hello, you all. For me, it's a big honor to talk to you and to explain my ideas. It will be a talk about the new world, the new future, what we are creating now, and also for the young people, how to stay healthy, and also from a cognitive and intellectual aspect. What we look here is a view from the moon. This is made by Neil Armstrong, and it was the starting point of my own voyage in thinking about my work and writing my book. And I came out to the color blue. Why? When people are having pain, they describe the feeling as being red. And when you ask people, how do you feel healthy? It more is yellow, and most often the answer is blue. I feel light blue. And so when I saw this picture and I heard the stories of the son of Neil Armstrong, because Neil himself didn't give many lectures. We don't know a lot about him, how he experienced his moon travel. But what his son told the world is that when Neil was busy in going to the moon and exploring the moon surface, that he get into the rocket again, and after they went to the black part of the moon, they came into the sun, and then they saw the total balance of our Earth in the star system. And what is very unique is the color blue. So actually it is something that we associate with being very healthy. And what I write in the book is the true origin of human nature. And what we have to understand is that we are new kid on the block. We only are here on Earth for 250,000 years. And for example, when you compare that with birds or crocodiles, we are really new here. And so when you look at a human being from a distance, let's say when you are from a different civilization and you come to Earth and you look at humans, then I would say to those people, take care. And why? Because when you look at our eyes, they are closed, and they are positioned in the frontal part of the head. But when you look at other animals, they have the eyes more to the side of the face. So that means that we are a predator, and that means that we are making plans to catch other animals. So we have a part of the brain which is making for plans to catch. So we think we have an innate idea of catching, and without this fundamental idea, we would never have to be on the moon, and we will never have to make digital platforms, and we would only have the idea of run. And that is what makes us so unique. The other thing is, what you have to consider is that we only can think and conceptualize 4 hours maximum a day, and that our physical system makes us an animal which can walk a longer distance than a horse. And what we do is that with this unique composition, that we put children and people at the workplace for 8 hours, and with no movement, and that we have to think for 8 hours. So you see, for example, that overexposure is easily created, and we are not doing what we are actually built for. So when you look at human beings, we can think ahead. We can conceptualize for 4 hours a day as a maximum, and we can move a very long distance. So that is what we are. And how do we put this physical features in learning and at the workplace? What we know now is, for example, from those 250,000 years, is that we get 250,000 years development of DNA from your mother, 250,000 years of development of DNA from your father, and boom, there you are as a unique individual. And that is what I called brain DNA. The brain DNA, you can consider that as your inner voice. It is something what attracts to certain parts of the world. For example, some kids like to dance, some kids like to play music, other kids are very good in mathematics, other kids are very good in French. It is brain DNA is your inner voice, what attracts you to parts of the world. For example, I know some people who are very good in music, and they have a talent to understand the mathematics of music. What we spoke about Chelsea is that we selected young boys who had a talent for the mathematics of football, that they can read the game very easily. That is your brain DNA. That's your real innate talent. But then there's also a process which has an effect on brain development, and that's the environment. For example, I lived a while in the inner city of the Big Apple. I lived a while in Sri Lanka, and I live in Northern Europe, and I worked a while in the Middle East. And that is different. Someone from New York is different than someone from Sri Lanka. And that's the environment which creates a kind of pressure on the brain DNA. And also schooling systems. The life at your home. For example, there was a journalist who asked Matt Damon why he was so calm and why he was not so affected by his huge fame. And he gave a very simple but a very complex answer as well. He told the journalist, well, I grew up in a home. When I came down in the morning and I came in the kitchen, it smelled coffee. I smelled coffee, and there was a laugh. There was always laughter. So this guy, he was in an environment which gave him safety, and there was laughter, and there was, let's say, guidance for him, which was very fruitful for him in combination with the brain DNA. But can you imagine, for example, here in Northern Europe, there is speed, there's pressure, and when you are born with a Latino brain DNA and in Northern Europe, so that can cause a problem in that you are living a lifestyle which is not the life and your inner voice where you are born with. The same with someone who is very, who wants to have a type A behavior with competition, being creative, and then you live in a country where there's a very slow pace. And so you see that, that it is a kind of balance. And that's also where we started with the interview. You have to find your balance, and you have to find your balance in the environment, and vice versa. What we also have to understand, and being a doctor, this is actually a very important issue in medicine, which is never lived on the way it is important. A friend of mine, he is a mountain climber, and he lives in a beautiful area in the Pyrenees. He spoke with me and he said, you always talk about MRI scans, muscles, illness symptoms, but Erik, life is a positive energy itself. And that was for me a complete breakthrough. For example, now I have 2 puppies, and those dogs, they wag their tails, they are creative, they analyze, so they love life. And everybody is born with this positive energy because we live. And that is often neglected in hospitals, and that we are filled with a battery, which is very positive. But can you imagine what a problem you have when you are 31 years old and you come to my clinic and you say, well, I don't have energy. When I wake up, I feel bad. I don't have the energy to continue my day. And now out of 8 million people who work in Holland, in the Netherlands, 1 million people have a lack of energy. They cannot compete. They cannot live the day like they should live. So it gives also an insight that something is wrong and something has to be changed. And working with clients for 30 years, it also gave me an idea that sometimes you should not ask about what are your complaints, but 2 things: do you smile and do you sleep? Because when you smile, you are happy, and when you can sleep, you don't have pain, you feel relaxed, and the next day you are fit. So smile and sleep became a kind of abstract, which I work with my clients every day. I do it with young people, with old people, and I also can advise that, for example, employees and their bosses, they start smile and sleep talks every 6 weeks. That, for example, that an work giver starts a conversation with his employee. Are you happy? And do you feel inner rest? Because when you're not happy and when you are feeling restless, that's a starter for, let's say, being ill, and that's a starter for burnout or other complaints, pain, and also with your relationship with your man or with your woman, that you make a kind of agreement. Okay, every 6 weeks we start a smile and sleep talk, and smile and sleep is so important in human happiness, in human health. You should really consider this. And also, when you have a firm, start smile and sleep talks with your employees. It gives you the most powerful information, and get rid of all those listings and programs. It is all about smile and sleep. For example, when we go for the new world and we think about our future, everything what we design should be connected with the most complex organ we have, and that's what we call the brain. As a neuroanatomist, I give lectures at the university, and when you see the brain for the first time, it's a weird organ. It looks actually ugly. It is like you have those calamares. It is soft. It is jelly, and it is a combination of fat and proteins, and it is very difficult. When I started of becoming a lecturer, all the students tell me, well, this is we are not happy because it's the most boring subject in medicine. So I try to change it, and I like to give lessons which are not boring, and then we start to make combination about the 250,000 years, the brain DNA. So it is actually an idea which developed by itself. When you look at the brain, it's enormous complex. When you look at the backside of the brain, that is where all the visual processing is taking place. You have cellular layers which fire when they look at such a structure, such a linear construction. And I always think that the work of an eye doctor is awesome, that he understands completely how the visual system works. When you look at, for example, at the temporal lobe at the side of the head, it is a combination of pain, memory, language, the understanding of language, and emotions. And so, for example, when you look at those functions, and when you listen to patient stories, then when someone is in pain, he always have memory impairments, and there is a problem with language. So you see that it's all interrelated. And for me, what I did a lot of research on is the frontal lobe, the frontal part of the brain, which makes us able to think ahead, to think in the future, to make a future plan. You have to understand that humans are animals who can think ahead, and a lot of animals just think in the moment. They don't have a memory, they don't have a future. For example, they put electrodes in the brain of impala, and they showed him a lion, and then this impala made a big stress response in the brain. But when they removed the impala for 1 kilometer, in which he had no contact with the lion, then the animal was completely at ease, relaxed. But in humans, we think ahead, well, there should not be a lion here. And that is also creating anxiety in humans. That is why we are so vulnerable for anxiety, because we can think in the future. Like I said, from the DNA, what you got from your father and your mother, the brain is like a human fingerprint. It is a unique system, And there will never be in the future, and there will be never in the past, someone who thinks like you. It is the same like your fingerprint and the structure of your face. You are unique. And that is very important when we look at to create a digital world, how it should connect to the human brain. What we know now is that, for example, when we look at schools and when we educate our children, is that we are made for moving in the combination with thinking. Movement and cognition is needed to make a perfect brain development. The brain, what you have to understand, is developing till 21 years of age. And my idea is maybe revolutionary, but I think that besides learning knowledge, we also have to promote brain development in children and in teenagers, and also brain development in our employees, that when you work, we also have an opportunity to do brain development, and that you get brighter, that your attention span is getting better, and that your memory processing is going better, and that we have to think from a revolutionary angle for the future in how we make our school programs for our kids, teenagers, but also how we make homework programs for our employees. In working, moving is very important. For example, to sharpen your attention span, when you walk half an hour on 60% of your total capacity, that improves your attention span enormously, significantly. And it is very good, for example, when you have a working place at home in which you sit, which you stand, and what is very important is micro movements. Micro movements is very important for the blood flow in certain areas in which you prevent repetitive strain injuries. And what we know now from RSI is that RSI is always a combination of cognitive overexposure and a bad posture. What we know from research is what the brain likes is information from outside to inside. That's what is making the brain relaxed. When the process is coming from inside to outside, like for example pondering, costs a lot of energy and will create stress and fatigue. But information outside to inside is easing the brain, making it calm, and we call that actually virtual oxygen. And so the digital world should make programs in which there is a lot of information coming outside to inside, and that we add something to that information and bring that from our brain to outside, and that's what we call the new work. And that is a kind of work process which we can do for a very long time. The brain likes that. There's also attention for overstimulation. It is a process what I call heat in my book. Is, for example, you have a certain kind of power and a certain kind of intellectual power, which is different for everyone. And when there is an environment asking for working on stimuli, then, for example, when you go for 99% of your power, then you feel healthy. But when you come to 101% or 300%, then something happens which is very complex to understand. We have a structure in the brain which is giving a push for a very old system, what we call the reptile system, in which, for example, the hypothalamus starts to communicate with the pituitary gland, and when we have an overstimulation. The pituitary gland is putting a substance in the bloodstream, it's called ACTH, which goes to the kidneys. And then the kidneys are releasing cortisol and adrenaline. And cortisol is something what the brain dislikes, and it immediately impairs memory processing, concentration, it increases muscle tension, and it takes away a lot of energy, actually, which is the beginning of burnout, fatigue, problems in pain sensation, and things you don't like in what you don't want in your employees. The digital world can also give you information, for example, outside to inside, is that it is a complete package. Is, for example, what Elon Musk is creating now is that, for example, you can you can write letters when you only give 1 or 2 or 3 words, and then the letter is completely written. You cannot distinguish it like it is written by a human, but also the only thing what you have to ask is, for example, a little bit of emotional flavor. So in my practice, for example, I do research on certain parts of brain function, and then you deliver some words, and then the program is writing a part of the report for you. And that will also be the new future. So that there is, for example, outside information going inside, which is already prepared, and that you add some emotional flavor to it, and that would be the new way in working at home. Working at home, I think that there should be one focus in that you look at your position, that you look at overstimulation, and it is also the role what you take at working at home. For example, most of the people are also a father or a mother, and how does that create an environment? In our lecture for the Dutch participants, a lot of people say, well, I have an energy like when I work at home. So then you have to look at what parts are creating overstimulation. Is it, for example, your role as a mother, in your role as an employee, and what is adding to the fact that it costs so much energy? And also, do you create an environment which is which you can say it will be the same as in the office? And I think that giving someone a computer and take it away to work with it at home, I think that's not the right thing. It is a very complex undertaking to create a working environment at home. And then, for example, the ergonomy should be okay. Position, micro movements, big movements, working, cognition, movements, it all should add to a very healthy place, and where you, for example, your intellectual skills can be 100%. And for me, COVID-19 is not a time that there is panic or fear. It is also the start of a new era in which there's no going back to the old. And working at home, traffic, airplanes, traffic jams, what we look now is what we experience. It's actually the greatest social experiment ever. And my father told us that after World War II, everyone wanted to go on with their lives like it was before the World War. But you saw in the 60s a reaction on the World War. And it is also that, for example, the COVID-19 lesson, it will never be the same like it was before. And what also it gives us an idea about the hidden codes of nature. The numbers of people with burnout are too big, and the hidden code on a micro level of our nature is, for example, that you have to smile and that you have to sleep okay, and that you have to listen to your body, for example, to fatigue, memory impairment, concentration impairments, and you have to take that into consideration in looking at your health. And on the macro level, it is like, for example, that we have to look at a new relationship between people and animals, and that we cannot continue for let's say, keep hundred thousands of birds with antibiotics and with a big chance of creating a new flu next to cities where millions of people live, because flu is transmitted most of the time by birds. And it needs a complete new level of thinking about what we should do in the new world after COVID-19. And I hope that, for example, tomorrow the world will be perfect blue, that we have a better balance between who we are, the human nature, and our environment. And I think that the future after COVID-19 consists about three things. Is that you need to look at your home workplace, for example, with body position, with micro movements, with good equipment to work on a high quality level. Movement is necessary to stay healthy, and that you look what you really like on an individual level in how to work with digital platforms, and how to stay healthy with no overstimulation, and that you do the things which you are really passionate of. And I think that is the message for the future.
Very good, Erik. Stay with us, Erik. Thank you very much for your presentation. A great message about finding the new balance. Before we go back to our interview and answering some questions which people can now put through the chat function, we did a poll on at the beginning of the presentation. What do you think, Erik? What? I have the results here, but from your perspective, what do you think at this moment mostly in Europe? No, it's a little bit fake. For some reason, if you go to full screen, then yeah. We keep it more sharp on a distance, on 1.5 meter, Erik. Is that okay?
Yeah.
But what do you think? This poll was 1 to 2 at this moment. At this moment of COVID, do you think what's the biggest part of the people working from home? Is it 1 to 2 days, 3 to 4, or even 5 days?
I was surprised. I was surprised that 70% of our listeners working 5 days at home in the Dutch population. Yeah. So a lot of people work at home full time. Yeah. And
that's interesting, because this morning we had the Dutch audience.
Yeah.
Now we have an international audience, and now the outcome is 70%, 3 to 4 days a week.
Okay.
So there's also the cultural thing about, let's say, French people, German people, UK people, that they are more intended to go to the office and waiting to go back to the office. While the Dutch people, they were used to work from home, but now they need to switch to full time, and they just did.
Yeah.
They just did. But we also learned, so 70% is 3 to 4 days at this moment. We see 20% is 1 to 2 days, but still 10% is 5 days.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard.
So actually, 80% is working more than 3 days at home.
Yeah.
Which is a large number.
Yeah.
And so actually, it is also a new thing that working at home is a big issue.
Yeah.
And how do you do it with the kids? How do you do it with
your colleagues?
With your colleagues, and how do you accept the fact that everything has changed?
Yeah, that's true, and that's also the inspiring line you draw with Perfect Blue, finding a new balance. It will never be the same as before COVID-19. We heard already some companies, they already making plans for 2021 that employees can choose to work 1 or 2 days from home for the whole team.
Yes.
So also the employee has the new freedom to rethink about their own work processes, and that they're more flexible to think, okay, this is a task which I can do better at home, more concentration. This is a task where I need my team. And that is also from leadership point of view, also a big thing. And also from the health and safety point as well, from the health and productivity and well-being, that the homework situation is a part of the company, and the company should take responsibility to, you're paying the salaries. So when you're working from home, you get the right equipment, but also the mental equipment.
For me, this is very revolutionary. When I look at the polls, that so many people change their working behavior, and to change it to a complete new environment, and how it will work out on the success for the firms, how it will work out on development of diseases which are very common now, like burnouts, and how we can use this new situation that people get healthy and very successful.
And then, because it's a big responsibility, also own responsibility for the employee, but also for the employer. How do you see also from governmental part, what is the role of the government and the big corporate leaders to give the right signal to the work environment?
I think that there is more from guys like, let's say, Elon Musk, the people who are very creative, who really change the world, like the guys like Steve Jobs, that we design software which fits to the human brain, and which fits to the new working place, which is adapted to an individual standard, and that we leave the concept of one size fits all. And that anyone loves to work with this individual package of software, and that you can work it upon, that you like it, and that you combine it with a lot of movement, micro and macro, so that you start to do walks, training, that you have chairs in which you stimulate your
calves,
legs, the calves, and in which you prevent from repetitive strain injuries. So it is revolutionary, and but also a task, and also new, which we have to be very creative.
And also, I totally agree, Erik. Also on the, let's say, on the home working policies, which employers should develop in the coming months for the future, they need to collaborate with the individual, and they get all the intellect for making this right balance of employees working from home and in the office. And I also think that from that part, the fact what you told about the smile and sleep chat, this 6 weeks chat with 2 words, smile and sleep. Are you doing the things you like, and are you at ease?
Yes.
Are you in comfort? And finding this new balance also with working from home and working in the office.
I think as a doctor, in that you have a feeling of restlessness, that is the major part of health for the future. That when you are having a firm, that when people start to develop restlessness. Because restlessness is what I explained in my talk, is when the brain is communicating with your kidney. And that is the start of a nasty disease. But that nasty disease is not a flu for 1 week. It will knock you out for 6 months at a minimum. And we have to take care of that. And we have to create a working place at home in which you are healthy and which you have a very high level of smile and sleep. And that is the new approach. And that is the future we have to go to.
Great. Erik, I see on a big screen that we have some questions coming in. We still have 10 minutes, so let's pick some of the questions which you see here. One of them is I think is really interesting one. What will happen if an employer neglects one of the top 3 issues, and maybe especially the blue mind?
What we know, for example, is I forgot if I explained it, but in Holland, and we are a very dense industrialized country, is that, for example, when I started before COVID doing research on, let's say, the chance of a burnout, is that 1 million out of 8 million workers, employees, had a chance in developing in the first 3 and 6 months a burnout. So that's the new disease of modern mankind. Like, for example, infection diseases was for grandparents, right? Was dangerous. Now fatigue is the disease. Now after COVID, we did the same measurement, and there was an institution who calculated it, and now we are on 4 million. So beside a viral pandemic, I think that the emotional pandemic is more dangerous. And
it's maybe good.
That is what will happen if we neglect one of the top 3 issues. That we bring ourselves as a nation, industry, in danger, because it will not work when half of the population is ill. For sure. Or not productive.
Also in the same line of that question, the question came in: why do we need a crisis in order to really change? And that's it's so crazy that we need the pressure of a crisis to rethink.
I know why. I think that most of the people, 95% of the people, like to reproduce. Because that's who we are, and only 5% like to change. So when you, for example, when you have an environment, what you like the people you work with, you don't want to change it. But the crisis faces you change. Like the Second World War was a change in how we think about human and about qualities of human life. And this is something which is a knockout on the chin, a knockdown on the chin of humankind. And you like it or you don't like it, we have to change. And crisis means change.
For sure. Also, really a concrete question is, we use the words in our talks, micro movements, and what is exactly micro movement? Well, from our side, it's like sitting and standing is a micro movement. We know.
But also, for example, when you sit on a ball, on a big plastic ball, you don't know that you have to establish your balance all the time, and which is very healthy.
Yeah.
Which is very healthy. And for example, when you make, when you're typing a report and you sit on, and but also you can create chairs in which you have the same sensation, and it is very healthy because the blood flow in the lower part of the body and in your back is going to an optimum, and also is getting rid of stress hormones, which is producing nasty side effects like fatigue and
when you're too static.
Yeah, too static, and your muscles. It is very healthy for your muscles and your mind as well.
And it's also you are collaborating with us on the Work and Move software, where we stimulate let's say bit stops, and to take the concentration off your work, to re-energize, and also to create some movement as well. And sometimes you get a pit stop of 3 minutes, and then you move away from your task, do something else, re-energize, and come back. Yeah. Very good. And also, maybe nice to share an insight about the biggest muscle in our body is the calf.
Yeah.
And when we sit, it's important that we move our toes, which are stimulating the calf, stimulating the blood circulation back to up front to the heart to get new oxygen, and keeps pumping new energy throughout your, but also in your brain.
Yeah.
So movement of your toes, stimulating your calf, stimulates blood circulation, stimulates fresh oxygen for your brain.
What I like to show in this lecture is that there's only one system in our body what connects with the outer world. That's the brain.
Yeah.
And how can we optimize brain function? That was the whole talk about. Yeah. And micro movements. Walks for half an hour, which are on a suboptimal level, in which you do things what the brain like, and we have to design the digital world which is connected to your individual inner voice.
Yeah.
And that's the task of the future.
Yeah. To stimulate the inner voice as well.
To stimulate the inner voice as well, and that you can create a working place even at home, which is also very healthy for brain development.
Yeah. And
that you are not getting tired every day, but that you feel energized every day. Yeah. And that's the big task for this moment.
Yeah. That was also an important insight, that the information coming to you use to produce new information to the outside, but you need to like the information to come in and just to process it into your new work.
And you have to understand that, for example, what you show to people is different. For example, when you have a mathematical brain, you like mathematical information. But when you have a verbal brain, you like to have information in French or in German. And so it is a unique process. And we have to, for example, like we let children choose their future in becoming an engineer, becoming a doctor, or becoming a car sailor. That is also the task for the digital world, what to choose for that individual person.
Yeah, what makes them tick. Yeah.
What makes them tick.
Yeah. Maybe to end our webinar, Erik, is one quite a big question. Will the 3 areas which we touched on, high quality workplace from home, working from home, movement, and perfect blue, and will these 3 areas be enough to get people at ease long term in their environment?
No.
No.
No. But it is a start.
Yeah.
It is a start, and we have to develop neuroanatomical insight like we do with BakkerElkhuizen. We have to work together. We have to listen to each other, and but I think that to understand brain function is necessary for the future.
Yeah.
And that you understand what humans are and how we develop, how we strive, what is mental health. And when we know that let's say that's the start for a very fruitful cooperation.
Yeah, very good, very good. Well, maybe one last question, which is as a last one coming in about the question is like, how many hours per day do we need micro movements or big movements?
Okay,
From
that is a very good question. Micro movements all the time.
Yeah.
And big movements is, let's say, when you feel that your concentration is a little bit impaired, then go for a short walk of a half an hour.
Yeah.
And so actually micro movements all the time. And when you feel that you get exhausted, do a walk for half an hour and start to move.
Yes. I think it's a great way to end this webinar. Start to move also during and after COVID-19, Erik. I want to thank you very much for this partnership as we've been doing over the years. Thank you, audience, for being with us today. Like I said, we will share this presentation and more information as well through email. If you have any more questions, please feel free to get those questions to us. And we hope to see you soon. Stay safe, stay productive, and stay healthy, and speak to you soon. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.